make up our bodies, right? That seems to run through all of us and the world around us. We sense this, what we call God. We sense it even if we don't know how to name God. Yet so often, particularly in those eventful times of note, we find comfort in being reminded of that. Even I need to be reminded of who God is and God's presence. And I think this is part of a piece of what it means to be an evangelist. Being reminded of the presence, that force, that divine, utterly benevolent force that makes everything right, all things well. All will be well. Julian of Norwich wrote about God making all things well. In the 1500s, she was an evangelist. And this is the gift of the evangelist, to communicate the goodness that is the reality of what God has already done and what God is doing, forgiving, loving, healing. But it goes sideways, lightning quick, if this communication is not carried by love. When the evangelist does hold her subject in view, perceives his audience as that of a lover to the beloved, the soulmate to soulmate. This is when it is right and good, when the evangelist is speaking out of the Spirit of God, spirit to spirit. So in a book I recently read, the protagonist quotes one of the more well-known Yeats poems. You may be familiar with this. It's called The Cloths of Heaven. It's beautiful. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams, and I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. It's beautiful, it's vulnerable. It's a caution. I love the imagery here, and it's obviously written with the lover in mind, but when I carry a message from God, this more than, that is also the source and instrument and definition of love itself, when I relay information from such a force, what might I be enticed to do with that powerful message, if it is not at once filled by that love and viewing my audience with love? The Spirit of God has already embroidered cloths with gold and silver light. Jesus has spread out the cloths under and over and around you already. And if I do not see the beautiful, original, exquisite needlework before me, I might stomp all over those threads, muck them up, even pull strands from the weave. Woe is me if I do that. It would be better that a millstone be tied around my neck and I be cast into the deepest sea. You are beautiful. Embroidered tapestries. Those children are beautiful. Embroidered tapestries. Tread lightly. The Spirit-empowered evangelist extends grace over people who are different from themselves. Their message will be focused on redemption, reconciliation, and restoration. This is what an evangelist is most focused on. Their communication is infectious. So when they draw people into a personal response to Jesus, the mission often grows in numbers. People are attracted to these charismatic folk. Of course, this is also the downfall of one who is not nurturing a vital relationship with God. An obsession with numbers. I'm sure we've all seen that if you've been to church very, very long. A misappropriation of that charisma, wanting the attention for themselves. I know I have been tempted to enjoy that more than understanding that anything that I say or do is because of who God is in me, and it is God that you hear. And I pray that the words that are not from God just fall to the ground. A phrase attributed to St. Francis of Assisi: preach the gospel always, when necessary use words. I love that phrase. It's not attested. There isn't anything written down that says that he actually said this. But a lot of what he did and what he said is much in line with this. There's a big argument over whether or not we can actually preach the gospel without using words. You know, I don't care about that. I think we all are given gifts and we all work together, and this is why we are all one body, because we have those different gifts, and we do preach in the way that we communicate God's love through our giftings. We are exhorted to preach the gospel, to proclaim the good news. But regardless of what your position is or where you come from, we do often use our words easily, sometimes too easily, and just as carelessly. So it's definitely good counsel to use your words sparingly, intentionally, prayerfully. It's easy to say, I love you, but to show love, live it out day after day after day, it's a whole new ballgame. What we do does speak, oftentimes much more loudly than what we say. So when we speak of communicating something, what does it look like exactly? In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. John 1:1. The gospel, the good news, is given us in 4 movements. Jesus' incarnation, life, death, and resurrection with quadraphonic perspectives. And one of those perspectives describes Jesus as the Word. And as beginning with God, in the beginning, and is God, the Word. Jesus is language. Jesus is the message. Jesus is God, and God is love. There is so much more there that a measly sermon such as this could never even approach, teasing it all out, and is from one measly's perspective. That would be me. So I will go with this. Words are not static. All that is Jesus is the Word. Spoken or written down, they move and evoke and encourage and enrage. Words are not inert. They carry power. They provoke the upending of governments and softly lull a newborn to sleep. Words do this. Evangelists are really good at using words. The evangelist is all about recruitment and recruitment to a cause. In order to be successful, the evangelist must be persuasive. Their modus operandi, they talk people into it. That's such a good phrase, isn't it? And a telling one. Talk people into it. It's as if one's very speech, the words passing along the air, could carry along